People, we are back. We're live again on Twitch. We are recording episode number 35 of the End Product Podcast. Let me just make sure that I've got everyone nice and loud here so that you can hear us. It looks good to me. I've got Quinny to my right if you're watching online, and we have our special guest, Sam Ty, aka Sam Ty, the football guy, as Quinny has baptized him. Quinny, how you been, mate? How have you been to start off with before we get into Sam?
Outside of what you see on camera and whatever, a good couple of days. I've got pretty merry on Hogmanay or New Year's Eve if you're not in Scotland.
Yeah,
and I'm not much of a drinker, so I thought I would celebrate the occasion, getting stuck into some tequila and whatever. I think probably one of the last times I was drunk, I was with you guys. It's probably the most hammered I've been this year. And yeah, I woke up, I've got a really sore back. I don't know what's happened. I've tied myself into a pretzel when I've been sleeping or whatever. But otherwise, all very well and good. And really excited for the guests we've got on today as well. Sam, good to see you, my man.
Yeah, good to be here, guys. Cheers. Quinny, all those backflips you were doing while you were drunk, that's why your back hurts. You got to stay away from that.
Probably that's something to do with it.
sounds about right. So, Sam, how was your festive period? Did you get up to much? Any mischief? Any drink any tequila or anything like that?
No, I don't drink tequila, fortunately. I mean, look, I had a lovely time over the festive period with my family and my friends. I actually got quite a bad illness just before Christmas, and I was like, oh, not again, not after the COVID cancellations we've had over the years. But I managed to get myself clear by about December 20th and was like, right, I'm going to isolate from here. Like, I ain't going outside. I'm not doing this again. So managed to safeguard it. Had a really nice time. And this week has obviously been the first one back properly. I've been very busy doing rank stuff. Had to write a couple of pieces I work for Southampton Football Club doing their Matchday magazine. That's not the most exciting and enthralling piece to write right now, unfortunately, but it is what it is. But yeah, it's been super busy.
Speaking of Southampton, I noticed today in some of the transfer news that they've been linked to Orsic of Dynamo Zagreb, so a little bit of SO5 utility coming over to Southampton. Do you get any sort of whispers or anything like that about what's going on at the club, or do you just kind of have to write up whatever it is that they send to you at the end of the week for the matchday program?
Well, I do the opposition tactical analysis piece for the program and for the website, so it's a little bit separate to Southampton. And in this case, that's a good thing because there isn't that much positivity around the team right now. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. Having watched the game last night, it's just the way it is. You get the odd thing here and there, but I think it'd be too easily traceable back to me if I started talking. So I tend to keep stum.
Yeah, I get you. Before we get into the crux of things, I just want to send a shout out to people who are up in the chat on Twitch. We've got Laird with us of Sorare Data fame. Send out to Laird. We've got a Pyromaniac Jack who's making comments about Quinny's old age and the tequila. We have Germ Nasty, and straight away has come in with a question for Sam. So we may as well do that right now, actually, before it disappears into the chat. And Germ Nasty says, Sam, been dying to ask you this. Huge fan of your player analysis. What do you think of Bella Kotchap?
Bella Kotchap. He's a really, really good 1v1 defender. Really good. The way he reads the situations in recovery runs is amazing. He's had a couple of really impressive games this season, one against United and one against Chelsea in particular. And when you match him up against a really fast attacker who wants to run over the top, like he's the kind of dream centre-back in that sense because his recovery ability is so strong. It's kind of like how Barcelona can afford to take lots of risks because they have Araujo, who has like the physical package. And it's not dissimilar really to Antonio Rudiger and how he can bail you out of a lot of situations too. Obviously, Bella Kotchap is not as good as these players, but what he's shown in terms of potential, the physical attributes, the recovery ability, the reading of the game, really strong. I'm really impressed. He's just very young and probably needs to be playing with a slightly more veteran presence or a more veteran set of players. Yeah.
You just got me having a little look at his SO5 scores because he does have cards on the platform. And like some of the points you raised there, straight away, as a centre-back, you're looking for that all-around score, aren't you, in sort of Sorare terms? And he seems to be a little bit more decisive dependent in terms of his scoring on the platform at the moment. But against, I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because Southampton are just not having a time of it at the moment, and it looks like he's had some pretty awkward games. He hasn't played 90 minutes too often this season, but definitely showing some potential there. He's still young. What is he, 20 years old? So yeah, it'd definitely be worth watching. I think Southampton have a pretty good history of looking after young talent as well. So be interesting to see how he develops at Southampton.
I bet his scores are really inconsistent, like probably not worth looking at from an SO5 perspective right now, but I'm sure that there are some peaks there that will let you know that, like, oh, actually he is capable of quite a lot if the setting is right. Right now, obviously, way more often than not, the setting is wrong because Southampton are conceding goals and losing games constantly.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. He's definitely hit a few of those like sort of turquoisey green, dark green scores. He's picked up a few decisive, but they tend to be clearances off the line, given the way things are going for Southampton this season. I was just looking actually, and he did manage to pick up 2 clearances off the line against Man United earlier this season. And on
Chelsea.
the subject of Man United, you're sat in front of one of my favourite players' shirts there, Marcus Rashford, who is absolutely on fire at the moment. What would your tactical analysis of Marcus Rashford look like if you had to send a report in against him right now?
I like Rashford off the left. I always have. I know it's a big debate, and it's always spun the wheels around on Twitter. You know, should he be playing as the 9? Should he be playing as the left winger? Obviously, the answer is depends what your centre forward is doing and what you want from your winger. That's the cop out answer. But where's the space nowadays? It's for those wide forwards. It's where Salah wants to play. It's where Mbappe wants to play. It's much more common to see an elite, very quick wide forward than it is to see an elite number 9 with bags of pace. They tend to move wide. That's where the space is. It's where Rashford's doing the business right now, and I'm loving seeing it. Like, obviously, he's a wonderful person. We know he's a great player when he's fit. It's that side, isn't it? I got that. So that's a signed shirt from when I went to his house. I interviewed him and went to his house and spent the day with him. It was just before he got that back injury, like a week. It was right in that. It was right in that mix. So I saw him probably on his last good week for about the next year or so, which was a real shame because having just met him, I was absolutely buzzing to watch him go and play again next and really root for him. And literally, like, the next week, his back goes. But it's good to see him back, isn't it?
Definitely is. As a United fan, I need to know. Did he make you any cups of tea, sandwiches? Like, how hospitable was he as in his house?
He was lovely. He didn't make me any tea. I don't drink tea, so I'd never ask him to do that. He was really lovely. We had a little game of keepy ups with each other. So it's one of my little mini claims to fame. I've played keepy ups with Marcus Rashford.
That is a good one. That is a good one. You got Jack Grealish on the other side, who I think he's kind of come the opposite way, hasn't he? This season's been like up and down for him. He's been looking for a run in the team. You know, I think he's had a couple of good games of late. It looks like he's forcing his way into that starting 11 a bit more. What does the future hold for Jack? Do you think he stays at Man City, or do you see him move in somewhere? He's been linked to moves to Italy. I don't know how legit those links are. I mean, makes no sense to me. But how do you see like his career sort of panning out from here?
Well, he's super exciting, and obviously, as a player, he was at his best for Villa when he was given pretty much free reign. This is the shirt from that final season at Villa when he just absolutely exploded, and he added so many elements to his game. He became much stronger in the run, much more explosive, basically impossible to dispossess. And he was just great, amazing fun to watch. And the chance creation out of him was just ridiculous. You'd argue that he's been constrained a little bit by the system at City. Sometimes he sort of pops off your screen and really does something good. Sometimes he feels like he's been strangled a little bit. It's a little bit difficult to get a gauge on him. It kind of feels like he's never quite going to hit his true heights at City, but he will always be very useful to them. So it's about how long he wants to do that, how long he wants to be part of the machine versus, the principal player. There's no way he's going to go to Italy. Like, I saw that rumor, like Milan, Rafael swap. I was like, come on. Like, Milan can't afford those wages for a start. And I don't know, there's something about Jack, the way he strikes me. I don't think Milan is in his current career plan. I don't know.
I don't see him learning a second language.
Yeah, he does like a Peroni though. We'll take that one.
Stish has had Peronis with Grealish when you've been doing keep ups with Rashford. Is that what it's been?
Well, I'm the athlete of the two, so it makes sense, you know.
I did hear actually that Jack Grealish was trying to learn how to DJ this season, so maybe we will cross paths at some point, and I can buy him a Peroni. Who knows? Speaking of Peroni, Quinny, you had the big one on the weekend. How did you find the match? Did you survive it? It was a bit of a rough one to get through, but how was your experience? Come the 90 minutes, come the end of the full-time whistle.
So just for clarity, if anyone doesn't know what Stish is talking about, Celtic played Rangers on Monday at 12:30, which was a bit wild. Yeah, I came out of it unscathed. I watched it. Did I watch it in here? Yeah, I did. I had friends over. We watched it in here. And yeah, I survived. I was pulling my hair out in the second half, but because also we were losing for a large portion of the second half after the penalty. We get denied a penalty. Yeah, it was good. I was quite glad that I just about managed to get something out of it SO5 wise, just the way I'd managed to combo my players together, because there wasn't that many good scores in the team, truth be told. But yeah, it was a really interesting. I don't know if it was quite a start to my week because it was a Monday, but it very much felt like a Sunday for all the early kickoffs and whatever. But yeah, a wee bit kind of disjointed from it, as it were. But I was just recording Celts Are Here podcast earlier this morning. And I was saying, like, I think that now that we've got that game out of the way, it feels like we're into a real second half of the season. Kind of curtain raiser thing. I think the manager will start to rotate a bit more. And I think that, it's kind of onwards and upwards from here. It's good to, we didn't want to lose that game. Coming out with a draw keeps the gap to 9 points. We're pretty much in the driver's seat. If Rangers did get the victory on the day, the gap reduces to 6 with 2 Old Firms left to run. And it would have maybe been a wee bit too tight for comfort, a wee bit nervy every weekend. But yeah, so it was a kind of roller coaster of emotions. The Kyogo goal right at the end helped me SO5 wise. It helped Celtic on the league table, of course, and the result ultimately in the end. So it was a real nice finish to the game for all the kind of frustrations I had throughout of it.
Yeah, it can't have been easy to watch. I had the notifications popping off on FOTMob on the mobile, and I thought of you. I thought, you're going to be pulling your hair out right now. The way that the scores went, I could imagine that it was a bit painful sitting through it at points, but got there in the end. And like you said, a nice way to end the game as well, especially from an SO5 perspective for yourself. Have either of you been in the market this week? What are you looking for? We'll start with Sam. Have you, obviously with the cap modes coming up, we spoke a little bit to Nanzo about this last week, and we're discussing tactics and who's in the market for what. Have you been buying players much of late while all of the kind of the upcoming bits come in?
Sorry, so you have to start with Quinny because my audio is cutting out, so I'm going to try and figure it out on the fly. So ask him first because I only got about half the question.
Quinny.
I managed to get a pretty good trade in this week, Stish. As you know, I had a real problem with super rare goalkeepers, with Gordon getting a double leg break, Viviano being benched. And, we talk about a lot on the podcast. This podcast, end product. It's all about the end result. And I've been doing pretty well with tier 3 and tier 2 super rares over the last week. And basically, long story short, somebody won a David Marshall super rare at the weekend. And they'd listed them for like an ETH or something. And I sent a bunch of direct offers, managed to get they did that thing where they don't have Discord and they don't have Twitter. They cancelled the listing, reduced his price and relisted. And that gave me the kind of nod of, right, cool, this guy's up for doing a deal, yeah. I wasn't wanting to part with any ETH for a 37-year-old super rare goalkeeper after I've already parted with ETH for a 40-year-old super rare goalkeeper and a 35-year-old super rare goalkeeper have let me down. So I managed to swap the Benoit Costil super rare goalkeeper that I won in December along with and I'm giving this as fair notice to everyone, Rami Hajal, the under-23 super rare mid that I won from Heerenveen, I traded both of them, brought the Marshall in, so I've got another super rare goalkeeper. But that Hajal and Rami Hajal, now that I've traded them out, we all know how this story goes.
Yeah.
He's going to bang, he's going to kill, and he'll be worth 5 ETH probably in a month or two. So if you're after a U23 mid who's got a wee bit of, I don't know if you want to call it Sorare karma in their favour, then Rami Hajal of Heerenveen is probably going to be that guy. Now. So that's pretty much the only kind of trade I've managed to execute over the last, week or two. On top of that, I don't know if Sam's audio's cleared up yet, but what he was saying to us when we first came in is that the last 5 weeks, or the last couple of weeks, sorry, he's not had a great time. So 5-wise, which I thought was a wee bit, I thought I could have swore Sam, I seen him doing well. And I had a wee peek back, Sam, at game week 333. Your boy Keenan Davis let you down big time, but I was so pleased to see my mic appears to be muted.
No, Sam, sorry.
Oh, Sam's okay. I thought it was me there, sorry.
Sorry.
But Sam had one of my old favourites, Joanne Jordan, in his underdog team, who banged out an 82-pointer with an assist. So finishing 88 for an underdog isn't too bad, but your boy Keenan Davis there, if he'd done something decent, he'd have been right in amongst something pretty good to start the year off with.
I've had an awful start in terms of SO5 to the year. I've been really struggling to get a team together. I think this week I only had sort of 3 entries. One of them was an underdog limited, which may still scrape something if my Turkish fixtures go my way. Looks like I've got a player in the starting lineup. Serdar Gürler is playing in the midfield for the afternoon kickoff. So that just leaves my other midfielder, Enis Bardi, who's sort of in and out of the team. But I had Mitoma captain, and he managed to bag a goal. So it says at the moment I'm 42.81 points off a tier 3 limited. So if Gurla has a good game and Bardi starts, then maybe I will find myself among the cards there. My all-star rare had an absolute nightmare this week. I had Bilal Bayazit in goal. 2 errors leading to goal and conceded 4 goals. So he put up a massive score of 15.2. Anthony was
15 off that, mate.
Oh, it was, yeah. I mean, he's been quite reliable for good scores this season. So I don't know. He's had a bit of a dip in his scoring over the last couple of games where the side have managed to concede 3 or more. That never bodes well for goalkeepers, does it? Unless they save a penalty in the process. So beyond that, I had an uncharacteristically low score from Giovanni Di Lorenzo. Put up a 30, so an all-around score of minus 7.6. So 27.6 was like his base score. It's for him, that's unreal. I don't think I've ever seen him score that low. If it has happened, it was a long time ago. Anthony was out of the United squad, so he scored a 0. And then I had Fikayo Tomori as my captain, and he only managed to put up a 33. I don't know what was going on. It's just like the odds were stacked against me all week, sadly there. So, yeah, that was about as good as it's got for me. I'm just hanging on to the hopes there that underdog limited team can scrape its way into the cards. But couldn't even manage the small leaf this week. So, yeah, maybe I will be looking into the transfer market. But I think maybe I should hold my horses and wait until we get all those fixtures back. Eredivisie's back. Liga MX is starting up again. So I've got quite a lot of reading to do this evening before I put all my teams through. I've almost forgot what that feels like through the World Cup break and everything. So I'm kind of excited, but kind of worried about how much time I'm going to be spending on Mexican websites later on this evening, trying to figure out who starts where, what, when, and how. Sam, it looks like you're back in the room with us. He's got his audio fixed. It's those AirPods,
so.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, they're awful. I think I'm fixed. We'll go with it for now. And I've had a really, really bad start to the year in Sorare, like really bad. And it's funny you mentioned Mexico because that's about 75% of it. I had my rare goalkeepers had a big blank period here between like January the 1st and whenever Germany returns. I've got a goalkeeper a rare goalkeeper in Chile, and I've got Frederick Runo from Union Berlin. I was like, January 20 onwards, I'm good, but I need something for this early bit. So I'll go to Mexico, and I bought Luis Malagon from Necaxa, who, because Guillermo Ochoa decided to join Salernitana, has then moved to Club America and now has to fight for his place, and looks like he's not going to start the season as number one because their incumbent number two gets the nod, for, at least to begin with. So I bought what was Necaxa's first choice goalkeeper in December, and now I have Club America's number two, and he was supposed to fix this period here, this 20-day period, and I've just come out of the wrong side of a very unpredictable set of events, I guess. Ochoa at his age going back to Europe, it's just
Crazy.
It's crazy. So that's part of it. That's a problem. And then also I've been kind of leaning on a pretty strong challenger side over the first half of the season, which is partially Zenit based, and Dejan Lovren has joined Lyon.
I saw that.
Yes.
So I have Lovren too. So yeah, I've got a reserve Mexican goalkeeper and Dejan Lovren now in Lyon, champion Europe. Like, it's just, unfortunately, it's kind of ripped me apart. So I'm down bad at the moment, guys. Send me all of the positive stories that you see, all the nice memes, just, every now and then just check in on me. It's not quite gone to plan so far.
Well, I don't want to dampen your sandwiches even further, but I did notice that Keylor Navas is also being linked to Club America.
I actually have a limited Keylor Navas, who's I'd almost come out a small winner in that sense, but also still a loser because Malacon. Well, yeah, So I get something out of that. Maybe.
It's such an unforeseen set of events as well that, like your number one goes to be a number two somewhere else. It's one of these things that there's no legislating for that, No. I would hope it comes good for you, because surely if he's a number one somewhere, you would like to think they're bringing a number one in to be a number one,
Sure, yeah. I feel like I've got myself caught in the middle of a Mexican soap opera because I'm now looking. I'm obviously doing what everybody else does, which is I'm now googling Luis Malagon, Google News, reading all the Mexican newspapers, and like Malagon is really angry that he's been brought in to be number two, and because he was number one in the last couple of months, he was already had a number one seat. He's really angry about it. So there's this whole thing, like he's like laying down the gauntlet to his his challenger. He's like, I've come here to play, I'll do absolutely everything. He's speaking to the press about it. They've got cameras in training focusing on the goalkeeper unit, to see who's doing. It's like, what have I got myself into?
Wow.
How have I ended up looking at like Mexican local media and tracking like the biggest drama of all time, and it's the Club America goalkeeper situation, and I've got a stake in it? I just can't believe it. But it is what it is. Like you say, unforeseen events. I can get upset about it, or I can just accept it for what it is, which is just rotten luck. Also, he's 25, so it's not like he's come to the end of his tether. Like, I'll just have to sit on him and just wait.
Yeah, it's the thing with goalkeepers, isn't it? Because they're so expensive. It's so hard to take a loss on them and shift them out to then like potentially lose on the next one. So we all try and pick up goalkeepers at the like optimum price, don't you? And the best thing you can ever do is pick up a goalkeeper just before a good move, or before the number one moves on, or those are the kind of trades that you want to be making. So when you hit one like that side of it, it's like a 6-pointer in the opposite direction, isn't it? It's like it's like being on the absolute rotten end of it. I've had a few recently. Obviously, I've spoken about Etienne Green untold times on this podcast. There was news of him moving to Lorient recently, and then Drea had an absolute stinker a couple of weeks ago, and he was not in the match day squad for their last fixture. So they released a match day squad list, and it had Etienne Green and Boubacar Fowl as the two goalkeepers. So I thought, oh, sweet, Green should be back in. Fowl hasn't played a first team game for years, and he's younger than Green as well. I think he's 20 or 19. And where does Etienne Green start? On the bench, of course he does. And the only potential saving grace there is he did have a little bit of a back complaint the week before. So the only other reason that he might have been benched is that maybe he wasn't 100% and they didn't want to risk him. But on the other side of it, on the flip, I've also seen news this week that Lorient are going to sign a goalkeeper from, I think, a Polish side instead. So that leaves Green well and truly in limbo. No one knows what's going on there. Saint Etienne could be relegated to what is it called? League 3? I don't even know what
it's National, I think.
National, yeah, I think
League,
so.
whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, and then what for him?
That's mad. I didn't realize Saint Etienne were doing that bad. They may get relegated again. Jesus.
Yeah, he's just so far down the pecking order now. Something is amiss there. It can't just be about his performances. You don't fall that far down the pecking order. He must have had a fallout with the manager as well. It's just very unusual. To see him in that situation. So that's been really annoying because he's a super rare goalkeeper and an under 23 goalkeeper. So it's one of the most expensive super rares I own, and I'm just watching him waste away. By the time he figures out what he's doing, he's probably going to be about 26 years old. So I just can't sell him at these prices. There's just so many cards I've got like it. It's
sure, yeah. You get stuck by one of these, unfortunately, and you just kind of have to take it on the chin, don't you? Like I've come out the right side of a few. I picked up Frederic Rono in the summer. You know, he just about maybe got the starting role for Union Berlin. I was like, I think he's got it. Going to take the risk. He's got Europa Leagues. He's got midweeks. Obviously, he doesn't like the first choice goalkeeper. Sometimes doesn't always start midweeks. But I got very lucky. Union Berlin had the best defense in the Bundesliga for the first half of the season, and he started all of the midweek games. Like that guy has paid himself back in thresholds already. But then, that's a great story. Then I'm now on the other end of it, and I just have to. You got to take the rough with the smooth. It's just the way it is.
So what's the situation?
So I was going to ask you about the Lovren as well, because that's something that a lot of Sorare managers come into and they worry about. Is like, if I go and build a stack, what happens when one of the guys leave? What do I do? So were you finding yourself in that position with Lovren, Sam? Are you thinking of getting another Zenit defender? You're just going to lean into it and play Lovren at Lyon, or what are you thinking?
Well, it doesn't really work for me in any capacity because he no longer can play in Challenger. Obviously, he plays for Lyon. Yep. He's a Champion Europe player now. He will be no good to me really when it comes to the cap mode because his L15 is like 65 because he's been battering it for Zenit. So he won't even really fit under the cap. So I have nothing to do with Lovren. Like I don't really know what the situation's going to be. I think I'm going to have to sell him. Luckily for me, I did not have to pay very much for him. For some reason, he was very, very underpriced at the start of the season, and I paid 0.1 for him. It was an absolute bargain. So I'm probably going to be able to get 0.1 or even maybe a little bit more back on him when I eventually, send him off to pastures new. That's okay. I'm facing possibly a profit there. If not, I'll make my money back. The annoying thing is I cannot replace him in my challenger stack. I cannot find a player that powerful. And it brings into question the entire team. Like I've got Barrios, I've got Maxi Gomez, I've got a good team. Well, I had a good team. Now I've only got 4. So now I have to reconsider a few things. I've just put that on the back burner. I'm too invested in the Mexican soap opera right now. I've got one thing at a time, Quinny.
Yeah, fair enough, man. I just wanted to ask you because when you mentioned that, I just thought that's definitely something that I know a lot of people come across or worry about to an extent, particularly in Lovren, because like you say, replacing a guy like that is hard, for the price, especially the price point that he falls at the moment when he was challenger versus champion.
I can't do it. If you go and look at, fine, Rodrigo instead, his centre-back partner. No. Nope, can't afford that.
Well, he's limited, and he's been... I actually picked him up because I was trying to make like a bit of a Sochi stack because I bought Noboa. I just wanted to build like a super strong Challenger Europe limited team. So I bought Rodrigo and Noboa as the kind of backbone of that team. And then Rodrigo moved to Zenit. But to be honest with you, it was probably better that he did that because Noboa's scores haven't let up from last season. He's a bit like the Tadic of the of the Russian Premier League. He's on set pieces, he's on penalties, he's banging the door on, was he 38, 39 years old, but he's an absolute beast, one of the best players in the division still. Rodrigo has gone from strength to strength, like you said, like all of that kind of Zenit backbone of like Rodrigo, Wendell, Malcolm are completely out of
and the left back as well. Douglas Santos, his limited is like 400 quid, let alone the other scarcities. It's
unrealistic if you're just trying to pick something up to play with. It's all right if you're a whale and you just want to put a stack out and not have to do too much. The beauty of having like those stacks is the hours that you put into the research as well. If you're only looking for news from one club, it's a lot easier than scouring the internet for individual player news. So that's another thing. I think that's one of the sort of unseen benefits of having a stack.
There's also no point in jumping in on Zenit right now because, like, obviously they've got their XP from last season, which is a big part of why they're so powerful. Another reason why Lovren is a problem for me because he'll get a new mint with Leon and his XP will dip. But like that XP obviously comes to an end at the end of this season. It won't carry on. So even though they'll still be really powerful, they might be 8% cards. They won't be 12% cards. My Barrios is 12.5 or 13. He's crazy. He's crazy. Yeah. And Lovren was similar. I think he was 11.5. Like it's not going to be worth it moving forward because that XP will expire.
Such a big thing as well when you do hit those 70, 80 odd scores with a Zenit player that you have a 12 to 15% bonus on. It is
that you've captained.
Enormous.
It's outrageous.
Mad. Like a 15% bonus and your player hitting a 20 is nothing. But when they're hitting an 80, it's a big difference at the top end of the table in terms of like, you know, the rewards and or in the ETH scraping as well, you know.
Yeah.
Not that many people probably scraping ETH with Zenit players unless they got into the platform really early and just happen to have the odd one of them sort of lying about. But it's crazy. I've just seen something in the chat actually that's that'd be good to pick both your brains on. Apparently Benoit Badiashile has completed his transfer to Chelsea and it's been announced while we've been recording. What do you two make of that move? And do you see him slotting straight in there? Because he's been pretty impressive in the past. And I think he'll do well in the Prem. But what do you two think?
How many centre-backs have Chelsea got now? 100?
I mean, yeah.
150?
They could probably field a team of 11 centre-backs at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, he looks a good player, Quinny. You've probably actually seen more of him than me. But I would just be so concerned about just the sheer number of people they have in that position. And it's always a question mark. When Chelsea buy a player, particularly in this position, you can always quite validly suggest, well, couldn't you have brought back X or couldn't you have promoted X? Because they've had so many centre-backs come through the academy. And like, you know, they in the summer, they bought Koulibaly and Fofana. And now they've bought Badiashile. In the past as well, in the last 18 months, they've sold Mark Gay to Crystal Palace and they've loaned out Levi Colwill. And Colwill's doing really, really well at Brighton. Like, he's clearly an excellent footballer. What does this mean for them? And it's like, I just feel a bit bad for them. And I find the Chelsea transfer decisions very hard to analyse in that respect because I like to understand what I think a club is doing or where their head is at. Yeah. And the answer is I have no clue what on earth Chelsea are doing most of the time post-takeover. They're very scrambled. But at the very least, like if you're going to spend money, make sure it's on good players. And he is a good player, right?
Yeah. What do you reckon?
I think what you said there kind of nails it for me. It's like since the takeover, like we don't really know what Chelsea are all about in that respect. And the first thing that I thought about the transfers, it's obviously like their number 2 target behind Jules Koundé because they were really after him big time before he went to Barca. So there must be some sort of plan, you know, like Potter obviously has been installed as manager as well. And looking at the defenders, you're quite right. There is a fair bunch of them there, but they've been very hard done to. Like the boy Fofana is listed as injured at the now. Thiago Silva up at 38, Koulibaly 31, obviously a recent transfer. Azpilicueta 33. So they really need, like when I was looking at that defence and adding in Badiashile, it gives me like kind of. What springs to my mind is they're trying to replicate Arsenal a wee bit better in terms of how they've built their defence over the last 2 or 3 years. I know Saliba has only come in this year, but he was recruited a few years ago, you know, and some of the other pieces that are in that team. Again, you don't need me to tell you anything about Arsenal. Most people listening probably watch more of them than I have this year. But that's the kind of, like I see, you know, when I look at that team, Badiashile coming in, like the back 4 ideally is going to be Cucurella, Chilwell, Fofana, Koulibaly, Badiashile, Reece James on right back. So there's the makings of a really strong back 4 there if they are going to play back 4 longer term. I know Potter's quite flexible and whatever, but it's a good move. And with Bella Kotchap, who we actually picked up with earlier on, like his scores are rubbish, right, overall. But when you couple that with the goals they've been conceding at Southampton, like I didn't want to interrupt because Sam also knows Southampton way better than I. But when I was looking at the scores, like they are rubbish and Southampton have been conceding. But if you look at like Bella Kotchap losing 2-1 to Everton, brought in a 53, losing 4-0 to Man City, brought in a 48, Losing 4-1 to Newcastle brings in just under 52. Losing 3-1 to Liverpool brings in a 46. So like Sam says, if they're a good player, like in terms of SO5 especially, because it is a 0 to 100 game, if they are a good player and they are going to play and they make successful actions, could be a great move for SO5. Could be I think it will be a good move in real life, maybe not immediately. But overall, I think it's a pretty solid transfer.
Yeah.
Left-footed centre-back, commodity. Yeah, it's one of those. If they decided they want to go out and find one of those for the first team level, then again, it's kind of like fair enough. And I'm sure they're acutely aware that Azpilicueta is in his last year. I'm sure, like the fact that Thiago Silva, for the record, still unbelievable. But they're probably waiting for the drop off. They're just by day, they're checking and waiting, and they're right to stock up on players to make sure that transition goes quite smoothly. Koulibaly's more experienced, Fofana and Badiashile less experienced. Could be a good mix. Could be a great back three. Don't know where it leaves Chalobah. Don't know where it leaves Colwill. Does it really matter? I don't know. It's hard to make a sense of it. But as I say, if you're going to spend money, just make sure it's on good players, because that's how you essentially retain value. And Badiashile will retain value. He's a fringe France international and a left-footed centre-back. He'll be in demand.
It's a good point. It's going to bring me on to the next topic quite nicely as well, because we saw yet another leak this week on Football Insider that reckon that the Premier League are going to announce a partnership with Sorare inside the first quarter of 2023. It's rumoured to be worth £30 million a season. It's not the first time we've heard this rumour, but I think it might be the first time that I've seen it from a football-focused blog or website as opposed to a crypto Web3 one. So
Sky News.
Yeah.
True.
So, I mean, here we are again. Is the Premier League coming? Are you going to be buying any players? What do you expect this means for the platform, etc.? I know we've had this a million times, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, Sam, and then me and Quinny can get into the crux of it after that.
I mean, don't know. Obviously, we're going off reports, but I do. Yeah, I mean, I'm expecting at this point, with this level of reporting and this level of rumor, you are expecting the Premier League to be on board pretty soon. It's going to be pretty good. I mean, it's going to be amazing for the platform. Sure, I think it will help with a lot of casuals, just having those more recognisable faces, having the biggest league in the world. It's all good having Liverpool, but being able to stick Rashford on this sort of thing is going to be hugely helpful as well.
Yeah. I
personally think that I will not get involved, mostly because I think it will be massively inflated in terms of prices. It's a guess, but you've got to assume that, and you've seen it as well all throughout Sorare's history. The hype on a certain player drives the price, even to the point where like Morocco's midfielder from the World Cup, not Amrabat, actually it was Unahi who really stood out at times. Azzedine Unahi. I was looking at his price through the tournament, and bear in mind, his scores are okay, and obviously he's a good player, but plays for Angers and he's all right. His limited was going up to 40-50 quid.
Yeah,
I was like, you've got to stop. But this is the power of hype. And this is what will happen with pretty much all the Premier League players, because that name recognition, that face value means so much to people. Because at the end of the day, and we're all guilty of it, we do like to buy players that we like. We do like to buy players that we know. Either it's a safety mechanism or it's just because we want to play with guys that we know and we enjoy. And you pay extra for it. It's a premium. So I'll try and stay away from that. I'll try not to buy a full stack of my club. No promises. I'll try. I think I'll steer clear. Hopefully it has an adverse effect on the other cards that I want to buy. Their prices are depressed and maybe I can take advantage. I don't know. It's all guesswork, but I'd imagine that's what happens.
Yeah.
I think all those opportunities are there to be had. I've seen the leagues come on before, and some ones I've not been too excited for, maybe clubs or something. When everyone is clambering towards them, they're also then trying to sell some stuff to fund some purchases. So sometimes you catch a bit of a desperate buyer or whatever, and you can get a wee cheeky deal. But I do think that, I make you totally right, Sam. The hype will drive Grealish, Rashford, Foden, Saka, all these big guys, of course. But because it should be the full league, according to the reports, and we've seen how Sorare normally roll these things out. If you cast your mind back to when the Scottish League came out, there was, every team kind of comes out at the one time, and you get the starting 11s for the first 5 or 6 issues mainly, and all the rest of it. But I've always noticed with these ones that there is always ones that if you have some, and Sam, obviously you're right close to it, the Premier League, but if you have any kind of extra intel coming into it that's not on Sorare data, then there's tons of things to be hoovered up, no two ways about it. And it's very easy to resist the temptation to not build a stack for the team you support until they have a card, and then that temptation is you'll know it when it comes. You'll look at them and you will say, "Fuck it, one won't hurt."
Well, that wasn't the case for you, was it? It was how many Kyogo Furuhashis would you like to own? Not will I get one? How many?
How many can I afford?
You're not wrong there at all. I think the point you made there about the potential inflation of prices is an interesting one, because one thing I think of when I think of the Premier League potentially launching is I think it's a little bit more comparable to a completely new product launching on Sorare, like NBA. It's like that the Premier League brand is that big in the world of fantasy sports, at least in football terms. And I think that like we may, if they get it right, see a spike that is comparable to the price spikes that we saw of those early mints of the good NBA cards, and not just the good ones, actually, most of them. I think a lot of our Sorare managers who wanted some exposure to the NBA got involved very quickly, thinking, you want to get in there early. But actually, the spike went like that, didn't it? And then it's kind of come down. But it looks to me like most cards are kind of finding their rhythm a bit on. Everything looks a little bit more on the uptick in terms of NBA right now. Obviously, players' prices do spike based on what their L10s are, etc.
Yeah.
But at the kind of like the overall trend of the market seems to be on an uptick now. But it was like a massive spike up and then down that first week or two. And I think the Prem will be like that. I think all those number ones, those first few mints where all of the big whales are like, I'll be the only person in this game week that has a Foden, or, you might be the only person with a Foden for a month if you're lucky. We don't know how quickly they're going to like be pushing these out in rare or super rare, etc. So that's where we'll see the premium really paid. And I think that the spike in prices will be similar to that of pretty much like the whole NBA product, just for all the Premier League cards. I think for me, I agree with Quinny as well in that I think it is going to be hard to see, hopefully, Man United cards on there, and a part of me doesn't just go, I need those cards in my, or even not just Man United, but Palace. Palace are a local team to me, and I have an affinity for the club. But I also, I think there's a lot of good U23 utility from the Palace team. You mentioned Mark Gay. He's definitely a card I'd pick up. Elise, Eze. I think there's a lot of good, young, talented players in that squad that I, from an SO5 perspective, would like to pick up. If the two of you had to pick 3 players that you would pick up, regardless of price, if there were 3 Premier League players that you could pick up, who would they be?
Let Sam go first.
Ooh, no, you go first. I need time to
I'll go
prepare.
first.
I need an hour. I don't know. I've never looked at them because I swore that I wouldn't get involved.
Yeah, I started looking this week when I saw those tweets pop up again.
I'll give you my first one dead easy, or my first 2 are dead easy, and that's John McGinn and Kieran Tierney.
Okay, so the first person that came to head was John McGinn, because I have by chance looked at, he scores crazy.
Yeah,
like
proper box.
I just looked at him in Sorare data one time, and it's dipped a bit recently, but just go back into last season. Goodness me.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I haven't actually gone into Sorare data and like ranked by performance, but I suppose that'd be a quick way of doing it. But given
I did a video on my channel in December. I went through the Premier League and tried to pull out. See, after we got the Sky News leak, I went through Sorare data, and Mark Gahey, the South Crystal Palace guy, he was one of the guys I put in the video, because I've tried to find some guys that are good, but no one, like Sorare players probably don't really know much about them. And another one I would throw in there, and then I'll shut up, is Gavin Bazinu of Southampton as well. U23 forever, Ireland international as well, Man City kind of academy for a bit and whatever. Championship utility next year, maybe.
Yeah, he's certainly busy. Let's put it that way. He's certainly busy. On the subject of Crystal Palace centre backs, actually, I bet those Joachim Andersen like soaring passes into the opposition half. He must he must do all right. And I do quite like Anderson. I wonder if he'd be a nice shout. Does look like he scores relatively well, to be fair. Actually, not so much this season, but last season was better. Yeah, I mean, if you're saying price is no object, I'd go out and buy the players that are absolutely like genuinely like I'd buy Grealish and Rashford. I'd buy Matoma. Like, there's not really an opportunity for me to buy one of those because he's so scarce at the moment. But like, yeah, I would go and buy probably just those guys that are really thrilling me right now. Matoma is one. He's awesome.
Yeah, I've got his limited. I was looking at him the other day because I kind of like digging into the stats and stuff. And obviously the big hype this season has been around Arsenal and all of their like young stars, and Martinelli is obviously one of the big names there. But if you compare Gabriel Martinelli's output to Mitoma, obviously playing quite similar positions as well, but over 90 minutes, Mitoma outperforms Martinelli in nearly every attacking, nearly all of those attacking situations.
Metrics,
yeah, it's
wow.
crazy. I mean, he's got to keep it up because I think Martinelli's probably got twice the minutes that Mitoma has.
Yeah,
but Mitoma's been outstanding since coming back from the World Cup. Well, ever since they started him, actually, was it Chelsea? I think his first start. I think he's started every game apart from one that he missed since. And he's had a goal disallowed against Arsenal, so that didn't show up either. It's he's been fantastic, and
there have only been 5 rare sales of Mitoma since the beginning of December.
Is that people not letting him go, or are they not listing him?
Yeah, people. I don't think people want to sell him. Like, obviously, there's a price for him. There's a floor for him. But it's £400 for the rare. And given he's 25, somehow, it's not even got like an under 23 tax on it. Like, he's not the cheapest player. Like, he's not. And I think people are like, this is the start of something. Let's hoard Mitoma, and I don't blame them.
I'm looking at it now as well. He has midfield and forward cards. So if you get the forward, you've probably got a little bit extra to pay there. The lowest forward card, and it is a Pavel trader, is 415. So you might be able to get him to knock that down a little bit. But yeah,
maybe see if you'll take Anikax a goalkeeper in exchange for it.
Give it a go. Do it before someone else does. Yeah, not a bad shout. That.
Good idea. Yeah.
I think. I mean, Quinny, you let go of a Trippier not that long ago. You still kicking like
that? Yeah, I'm kicking myself now for it for sure. Like, it was a really special card to me. Obviously, like, kicked on form amazingly, but I don't know. I just, I miss him. I miss him a lot. There's no excuses around it. I got offered a lot of money for it. I was kind of like, should I, shouldn't I? And I decided to go for it. I think I used the Trippier money. Trippier money helped me get Celtic stuff in some way, shape or form or something, because any cards I sold at the back end last year was funding that endeavour somehow. So I would need to go through the transactions to see exactly how much I should feel bad about doing it. Yeah. But when I see him rocking out 80s and 100s and stuff like that, I'm just like, why didn't I just buy a rare when I sold the super rare? Hendo tells me to do that all the time, because every time I sell a super rare, like Harwood Bellis, I sold Harwood Bellis for 3.5 ETH to Pires at the beginning of December. And I think Pires has sold him for 4.5 or something now, or 5 or something. It's dropped since then. But in the meantime, he's been killing it as well, which you kind of knew was going to happen. So yeah, it's I've kind of inadvertently reminded myself of a lesson. When I sell a super rare, I should be buying the rare, because I only sell guys when they're doing good, which is also a hard skill in itself. Because
hard, but it is the best way to sell. I often get into arguments with people on Discord who are trying to buy players off me because they're right at the bottom of their range, and I know full well that they're buying at the best time to buy. But I'm absolutely adamant that I will not list at the price that they're at currently. And they're like, "Oh, I'll give you this for it." I'm like, I can't accept that for it. I need that player to start hitting form again. Then I might offload them. But then it's the hardest time too, because it's so hard to let go of that card that's smashing it for you. But in like trading terms, it's in terms of like return on your investment, that is the absolute optimum time to get rid of him. But he's been unreal, hasn't he, for the last month or two, especially in SO5 terms. But also just Newcastle in general have been great, haven't they, this season? And I think we all seen like Eddie Howe like turn the corner for him last season, knowing that money is there to be invested in there's been some news this week that they should have about 60 million to spend in this window, which,
wow,
it's massive for Newcastle, especially in the position they're in. The quality that they could bring in with that sort of money onto a project as well that I'm sure a lot of players would be quite interested in joining. Potential to be playing Champions League football next season with that kind of backing. The potential for a club like that to start attracting serious stars is right up there. And who wouldn't want to join that project as a player right now?
I think they're going to try and spend it all in one go as well. I don't think they're going to split that into 2 sets of 30. I think they're in a position now where they can aggressively upgrade certain positions, 1 or 2 per window or whatever, because they've got such a strong base. And all the signs are that they're either looking at someone like James Maddison or going potentially back in for Moussa Diaby at Bayer Leverkusen. But that will tell you that whatever the name is, that will tell you the rough area of the pitch that they are considering and looking at. And that might sound a bit harsh on someone like Miguel Almiron, who's obviously been absolutely on fire from the right wing, but this is the nature of the beast. And that's what you do. You bring in that competition and you say, well done, Almiron, you've been really good. Now you've got to fight it out with this guy, that sort of thing. And it's just the way it goes, but that's the sort of luxurious position they're in. So if they do make a signing, I think it's going to be a pretty significant one. I don't think they're just going to pad things out.
I was also expecting the Newcastle form to end because I'm a massive Eddie Howe hater, as maybe some people will know.
Why?
So that was also part of the thinking of the trip. The whole time I've been exposed to Eddie Howe from when he was at Bournemouth, I've just never taken to him. And then when he was linked to Celtic, straight away, before we got Ange, I was saying, listen, we don't want this guy. I don't like him. I don't want him. And I'm telling you, we don't want him. That was my kind of attitude to it. And then he strung it out all summer, waiting for a better offer, basically. And then he tried to dress it up I can't get my staff out. And I'm like, this guy's just using us to get a profile to go and get another job and blah, blah, blah. So that just boiled my blood on top of the preconceived notion I had already that I didn't like him. So it's all in my head, really. There's no real tangible reason for it, but I don't like him.
I think there is a tangible reason. He strung Celtic along. I think you know exactly why you don't like him. It sounds fair enough to me.
I didn't like him before that anyway, because see with the Premier League, right? See the thing that's always boiled my blood about the Premier League over the last 10, 15 years, right? Is guys like Eddie Howe, is guys like Roberto Martinez, and there's another couple of them that get all this lavish praise from the media at different sections of the season for doing stuff that, Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, every year their defensive record got worse, and every year they just about hung on, but every year they spent more money. They bought more expensive players, they built a bigger squad, yada, yada. Roberto Martinez comes in. I'm going on a tangent. I'll finish this in a second.
Stish, we've tapped into something here, mate. This is a therapy couch.
Roberto Martinez comes in to Everton after Moyes has been there for 10 years building a defence, and then he can just come in and go, on you go, guys. Go and attack a wee bit, because you didn't used to do that before, and I'll show you how to attack a wee bit. He finishes really high with Everton, and everyone's like, oh, Roberto Martinez, what a guy. He goes to Belgium, everyone hates him anyway. So for me, Eddie Howe, he just falls into that mould of, he gets this Premier League darling status, and until now, I don't think he's warranted it at all. That's kind of where it's at. But I'll stop now.
I think that kind of about sums it up, though, Quinny. Your feelings. I think you've done this good service there. So yeah, good to get both of your views there on that EPL. I know we've gone massively into it, as everyone does in the Sorare stratosphere, talking about it. Another thing that we wanted to get in this week's edition was to have a little discussion around SO5 development, new game modes, new formats. Sam, what do you want to see Sorare bring into the kind of gameplay formats for this year?
Well, we've just had private leagues and the new cap mode. I'm not trying to be too greedy here. I'm still trying to get my head around the cap mode thing. I'm sure I'm not alone here. You guys are looking at your gallery, plotting it all out, thinking about what that means, and thinking, well, one day you'll think, oh yeah, no, I'm pretty well set for this, and then the following day you'll go, I think I'm about 8 cards short.
Yeah.
And then the day after that, you go, no, I probably just need 1 or 2. Then the following day, it's like, yeah, I'm fine. And then you have another panic. I've been doing that basically since the announcement, flipping and flapping between I'm screwed or I'm well set. I really don't know what to make of it yet. And that has been my primary focus, along with, the whole Mexican drama and Lovren as well. Yeah. I really, really wanted to see a capped form come to football because I had been watching it play out in the NBA, and I really like it. I really like it as a gameplay format, and I play the NBA in common terms. I don't watch NBA because I don't like basketball, so I don't buy any cards, but I play the common because I like the game format. It's a very compelling way of playing. So I was actually asking for this. I didn't really want it to impact my ability to churn out $50 a week, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess, in that respect. And I understand what SoRare have done, but I'm really pleased that they've brought that very compelling game mode into football. I think it's going to do a lot for the platform.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's going to be interesting, and touch on your point there about flip flapping between bits in your gallery. I think, like, for me, I keep looking at the minute and wondering if I'm going to be short a super rare keeper, because I've been kind of like, especially outside of the sort of European football window, I think that, or at least I felt like it. I need to check like the actual statistics, but I felt like I did better in terms of my rewards and finishing higher in tables when Europe was done and I was just playing with Asia and America, maybe because I had some of the top players. I've got Jesus Ferreira, super rare. I've got Lihan Bomb unique, and I'm putting them into D2 every week when I'm not playing against anyone who's got all the PSG youth players. And I think that I've been looking at my gallery more thinking about that sort of time of the season than the cap mode at the moment. But with that in mind, I'm also thinking that it would be sensible to have at least, because I've got quite a few super rare options, I should be putting a team into that cap mode, which means I need a goalkeeper that plays probably. And some of my goalkeeper options are just a little bit flimsy at the moment. I definitely am losing. I lose a U23 goalkeeping option in the summer. So like once the Belgian league finishes, Gaetan Kook won't start the next season as a U23. So I really need to consider maybe buying another U23 goalkeeper, which is really annoying because they're not cheap. And I've been looking.
It's hard to find.
Yeah, I've been looking at Asian ones because I think that there's a potential value there in Tani, but we've spoken about him a few times on the podcast, whether or not he'll be the nailed number one next season at Gamba. I've been looking at, was it Sasaki at Raysol? Yeah. Will he be the number one again next season? I don't know, because he kind of got thrown in when then their previous number one was sold to Saudi Arabia. Is it Saudi Arabia he's playing? I think it is, yeah. And I'm just wondering now, is he going to keep his place? Because I think that's one thing that you don't get as much in other divisions, but particularly in Japan and in Korea for that matter, actually. So it is the whole Asia continent. A lot of the young goalkeepers don't hold their place for too long. They'll be in there for like 6 months, and then one day they'll just be out, never to be seen again for 3 years, just sat on the bench. And I've had that 3 or 4 times with my rare goalkeepers. So I'm so scared about buying an Asian U23 option at the moment. But I feel like I need either an Asia one or an America because of that closed season. I should be able to clean up in that closed season, given I've got good super rare American cards under 23. I've got a good unique that I can use. If I have a good goalkeeper that I can put in there, with like a top like tier 0 rare or another super rare, I should be able to yield in the U23 division most weeks at some point. But having that option to enter the cap mode as well.
I haven't checked, but just off memory and scouting around and stuff, surely under 23 America's goalkeeper is even harder than Asia under 23 goalkeeper.
Yeah.
Like they basically don't exist, do they?
So there's Paul Scamp, who may lose his place again when their number one comes back from injury, Tim Melia. He didn't really. I had his rare, and I actually sold his rare when he started playing, and I got to watch him a few times. He did not convince me at all. He let in some really weak goals, and I thought this guy's going to be out as soon as Melia comes back, but he didn't come back before the end of the season. So we'll see what happens at the beginning of next season. But I'm not confirming. I'll be surprised if he holds his place, but he may well do. And then you've got Ochoa, who moved to the Mexican League. and I've been trying to find out if he's likely to be number one. I can't find any news stories on any friendlies that they've played, but they open their season in the Mexican League on Friday, and is it San Luis? I think he moved to. So I'm waiting to see. His price is quite tempting at the moment in rare. It's not too bad. It's like 0.5, which for an under 23 goalkeeper is pretty good. And he's like 18, 19. So if he does turn out to be number one, you can expect that price to be like 1.5 ETH quite easily. But he's risky at the moment. But if I could pick a super rare up like that, that'd be great. Then you've got Roman Celentano at Cincinnati, who is nailed, but does come with a bit of a premium. Yeah.
Yeah, but MLS is just like an absolute goal fest. So
yeah, exactly that. Yeah, very few clean sheets. But other than that, you've got obviously Slanina and his understudy, but both of those are very expensive. We don't know if Slanina will get loaned back from Chelsea. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not yet, has it?
No, I don't think so.
His price has dropped, so I think it looks like the market is expecting him to go and sit on the bench at Chelsea. So
there's no room on the bench. They've got Edouard Mendy.
yeah. And they got so I think the backup at Chicago Fire is Brady, who is also under 23, and his price is quite high too. So it's just hard to get an America one that isn't really expensive at the moment, and they all come with like a certain amount of risk. People in the chat are saying that Celentano isn't even 100% nailed, so they know better than I do. I think, you know, I've seen him play pretty much every game. I expect Cincinnati to be improved massively next season as well, actually. So that is one thing he does have going for him. But if he's not nailed, and especially when you're talking super rare, U23 super rare goalkeeper, they don't really have that drop off that like maybe like a Champ Euro one does, where you might be able to get a super rare for like times 2.5. A super rare U23 is at least 3 times the rare price usually. But it's just that scary thing of maybe them not being nailed or difficult. It's a difficult.
Sounds awful, mate. Glad I'm not involved.
Yeah, I've put in a few offers and I've had absolutely I haven't even had a counter offer come back on any U23 goalkeepers I've put in. I'm just trying to see if anyone's willing to sell one at the price that the last one sold at, and no one is. And even if I put a little bit extra on top, it's like, you know, they're all listing them at like 2 or 3 times what the last one sold went for. And it's like, I'm hoping you're just listing that in case a whale just goes, I'll have that, buys it at the floor price. But I know better than that. I'm trying to go off of like recent sold, but no one wants to hear that from me. I have had no luck. I've been trying to buy one for about 3 weeks now with no joy. But yeah, it's looking like Asia America for me, potentially. But yeah, that's been the kind of crux of my like capped trading for the cap mode. But yeah, people are sort of like speculating that there might be something else coming, because obviously the So Rare staff have been kind of hinting towards big things happening at the end of January, and I don't think they're just talking about this cap mode. I don't know if maybe they were going to go into regional tournaments or a little bit more like focused on league tournaments. So it might be like,
yeah. Did you think they might, if they were to introduce the Premier League, do you think they'd do a Premier League? Because I think that's possibly, not out of the realms of possibility at all. Yeah, what you were talking about with having, not what you were talking about, like, oh, you get the first Foden, you're the only one with Foden, doesn't necessarily work that well when he's entered into chat. I mean, obviously you get his score, but you have to enter him into Champion Europe. So it's not that much an advantage when he just goes up against all the other lads anyway. Maybe not Foden because under 23s, but you know who I mean. Those kind of guys, if Rashford or whatever. But you really would be able to yield an advantage there if they were entered into a very special, limited time only Premier League tournament that lasts the rest of the season, whatever it is, based on when they release it, if they release it.
Yeah,
that's the kind of frame of mind I've been putting myself into with like all that kind of new game mode stuff in mind. Is I'm now categorizing all my players by what league they're in, not what region they're in. So I'm thinking, I'm only thinking at this stage, but if they are teasing more utility and more game modes, with what we've seen with the Global Cup, Nanzo mentioned it last week that there could be like an FPL Global Cup kind of thing on the go when they launch the Prem.
Yeah.
And maybe it is just for the Prem, and maybe they do it because they've got great deals with La Liga and Bundesliga and whatever as well. So in terms of Champion Europe especially, I'm starting to now categorise them in my mind as a league team, you know. So I'm missing a La Liga defender or two. That's the kind of thought process I'm getting myself into for the next few months.
Can we have one that's lowest score wins? Because that'd be good for me.
I like that idea. Someone else came up with that once before, but they said, but if you get a DMP, it scores 100. So
Yeah,
trying to find players who are likely to come off the bench and have a stinker and put them all in the team.
Absolutely. One of my guys came off the bench last night for Empoli for 1 minute. I was like, the 5 of you would be perfect in the lowest score wins.
I used to have a player who played for Shonan Belmare, and I think I remember selling him because he picked up a decisive, but beyond that decisive, his L5 was like minus. It would have been minus. His all around score for like 5 games was like minus 20. But he picked up a decisive in one of them, so his average didn't look that bad. I managed to sell him, but I remember looking at that card thinking this guy literally would put up minus scores if they worked that way. But yeah, that'd be
fantastic. Imagine if you've got Dean Henderson, Nottingham Forest goalkeeper, and he's got City away at the weekend, and you're buzzing because he's going to score none.
Yeah,
the complete inverse of what it is right now, which is can't field him anywhere. Straight in training, just for fun. Maybe the prizes are absolutely terrible, but
or maybe they're just collectibles. We could do game modes like that where we have a collectible non-usable in SO5 card win of this player or something like that. Because I think that was an interesting precedent they set, wasn't it, with the collectible side? And I think it was actually quite a good thing because the fact that you could sell them to people that wanted the collectibles, there's still something to play for there. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the kind of thing that is introduced, like Quinny said, with the Global Cup style Prem tournament where you can win like the sticker collection type thing. Maybe we see that. Wouldn't be a bad thing. I think that would be the easiest way to onboard FPL managers, wouldn't it? I think people who don't want to put any money in but want to feel like they're winning something. It'd be interesting to see that. Definitely. Quinny, I think it's about that time. Just looking at the time now, it's probably about that time we have a look at last week's YouTube comments and pick a few out. Have you got that screen up in front of you, sir?
Yeah, a lot of the comments we had from last week, everyone was really happy to see Nanzo, and I'm pretty sure everyone that watches this episode live and when we put it out will be very grateful that we've had Sam on today. But I think the only things that kind of came out in terms of anything to pick up from was Hey Mai saying playing 20 years on Football Manager does mean something in real life. They were confirming. Love this episode. Very interesting listening to a Wales perspective. Hey Mai again. My guess is Sorare version of FPL, which we kind of just spoke about there. And otherwise, it was just a lot of love and a lot of praise for having Nanzo on, which I'm sure you guys in the comment section watching this after we've been live will be sharing your love and appreciation for Sam Ty, the football guy, bringing in 2023 on the End Product podcast with us.
I do really enjoy when Nanzo guests on episodes and stuff with you guys, with John, all stuff. I'm always happy to listen to Nanzo.
Yeah, he was really good, really interesting. And I'd definitely echo that. It was really interesting to speak to someone who is a realist. He's a real whale, isn't he? Like his gallery is absolutely enormous, and it's really interesting to hear that insight. But I think I was saying to some of my friends, I feel like Nanzo's like everyone's favorite whale. As much as he is a whale, he doesn't really get the hate that some of the other big accounts on the platform find themselves having to deal with. But I don't know how he does it. He's obviously a likable character, considering that the ETH balance that his cards. But it was fascinating talking to him about that, and hopefully one day we'll all be able to talk about our galleries in a similar vein on someone's podcast in our like gold encrusted studios.
Nice. Well, step one there is Lewis Malagon wins the starting job at Club America. Then we'll talk.
Yes, that's the big first step to whale world.
I'm hopeful for it, man. I'm hopeful for this time. I'm crossing my fingers on that.
We'll be keeping our eyes on the starting lineups with our fingers crossed, eyes crossed, and toes crossed for you, mate. Definitely.
I've got one of my friends has picked up Enzo Fernandez during the World Cup, and obviously at the moment it's just like, oh no, like not only is he kind of on strike, but also like he might be moving and stuff like that, and he's just been like, Sam, it's just been it's just been the worst. Like, I don't know why I did it, and I absolutely hate it. And I was like, yeah, I've got this Malakon problem, I've got this Lovren problem. I was like, do you want to meet up later and just cry together? Like, yeah, let's go for it. So, like, yeah, really, fingers crossed that everything works out really soon. But this is it, isn't it? This is the ups and downs of this game.
Oh, it definitely is, mate. I think that is a perfect place to end it. Quinny, you got anything else to add before we sign out?
Had tons of fun, and thanks for Sammy coming in and super subbing. Absolute hero.
Yeah, it's been really good having you on, Sam, man. We'll definitely have you on again, mate.
Cool. Thanks for having me, guys. I really enjoyed it.
Everyone who joined us on the live stream as well on Twitch, twitch.tv/plastician if you're listening to the podcast. We are going to try and make a habit of doing this live. And if you are listening to the podcast, please do share it, review it, all of that. I've noticed that you can review it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, all of those places now. Do give us a little rating. I'm sure it helps. I've noticed we're creeping our way up the rankings and the algorithms and stuff. So thanks for your ears. And if you could just lend us your thumbs on the app as well, that'd be fantastic. And thanks everyone for locking in. Everyone on Twitch, thank you very much for joining in live and getting involved. And we will see you again next week at roughly the same time. Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Quinny, as always, take care, and we'll see you next week.